competition from club, area, division, district, semifinals, and finals, made it farther than any other. He won the largest speech contest in the world and was crowned the 2015 World Champion of Public Speaking. And 5 years later, he generously accepted my invitation to this meeting. His championship speech was titled The Power of Words, is one of the most watched Toastmasters videos in YouTube with more than 1.3 million views. He is a successful author and 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 a TED Talk speaker. But what I admired most about this world champion is not that he is a world champ, but he is also a person who, who stutters. As a person who has speech difficulties, he is one of my role models. He won regardless of his stutter. And that made his winning even more inspirational. Please give your warmest round of applause to the 2015 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mohammed Qahtani.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you, Andre, for having me, guys. For having me with you guys. And just to jumpstart things, and I would like to start by asking this question. I know a lot of you are waiting for what's called the secret recipe for a winning speech, and to give you kind of the short answer for that is there isn't one. There is no secret recipe. And anybody who tells you, oh, I'm going to teach you the secret to winning, that he's lying to you. There is no secrets. In fact, if you go back and watch all the world champions and you go to watch each one of the speeches, and if you try to find one thing that is common across all of them, you're probably not going to find one in the speech itself. So that makes it short. Then what am I going to talk about? Well, when people teach you or coach you on speaking, they probably just teach you their own way and their own style, which again, you can use, but you can also ignore. What makes a speech memorable is the structure of the speech. You know, we learned in Toastmasters earlier that we have to break our speeches into introduction, body, and conclusion. And somehow some people kind of forgot about that. So it's important to go back to basic and start with this: introduction, body, and conclusion. So I'm gonna talk about to you today about one style of speaking. And we're gonna do it in the introduction, body, and conclusion kind of style as well. So let's begin with the introduction. Let me ask you this question first. By show of hands, how many of you watch YouTube? Okay, all of us. All right. Now, when you click on a YouTube clip, you will see an ad. And what do you do when you see the ad? You wait 5 seconds and then you skip. However, I'm sure there has been an ad that you did not skip. Why? Because within these 5 seconds, something happened that made you think, I want to see where this is going. Something caught your attention in the first 5 seconds that made you want to see the rest of the ad. And the same thing goes with speaking. You only have 5 seconds. If you didn't hook me for the first 5 seconds of you being on stage, I'll probably assume this speech is like any other speech. Do not start your speech with, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and today I'll be talking to you about so-and-so." Because this is how everybody starts their speeches. And you're not supposed to be like everybody. You have to bring something new to the table. So, first 5 seconds, you start with something called the hook. Now, the hook could be a question, which we all do in Toastmasters most of the time. I'm not really for it because it's been done so many times, but you can still use it. Or you can do a quote, or you can do a story. Now, if you're going to begin with a story, don't say, "My fellow audience, let me tell you a story." No, just dive right into the story. Or you can do what's called a shock. Now, the shock could be an act on stage that makes the audience think, "Oh my God, what he's doing." Or it could be a shocking piece of information that you begin with. Or you can hook your audience by a high tone of voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, good morning." That kind of high tone could also hook your audience. So this is the first thing that you do in your introduction. You hook your audience with the first 5 seconds of your speech. Now, after I'm hooked, what do you do next? Imagine, my fellow audience, if I began a speech by telling a story about my grandmother. She's 88 years old. She raised me ever since I was a little boy. Every morning, I watch the wrinkles on her face, the shaky hands when she grabbed my hand. Now, if this is the introduction, what do you think is going to happen toward the end of my speech? Anybody wants to guess?
Something about your grandmother.
But what do you think is going to happen toward the end of the speech?
You'll repeat this introductory story.
If I said, "My grandmother, she's 88 years old. She raised me ever since I was a child. Every morning I watch the wrinkles in her face and the shaky hands when she grabbed my hands." What do you think is going to happen toward the end of the speech?
She's gonna
I'll
pass
remember-
away.
The grandma.
Dead.
By a show of
Something-
hands, how many of you would think she's going to die at the end of the speech?
Yeah, something tragic, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see, the majority thought, okay, fine. Yeah, you began. Okay, she's going to die. He's going to cry. Well, yeah, we get it. What happened is that I gave up the conclusion too quickly. I gave too much information at the beginning that the speech itself became easily predictable. So what do you do after you hook your audience? For about 30 seconds to a minute, you do what's called a frame, which means you circle around your topic, but you still don't tell me what the topic is. Keep me guessing. If you have watched my championship speech, I began with a hook, which is a cigarette, and then I started to give some false information about smoking. Now, you heard my title, The Power of Words. He's talking about smoking. I don't see the connection. I'm still puzzled. And that's what you want at the beginning. You want the audience to kind of just keep on guessing where is he going with this? So a hook, and then the frame. And then after that comes the message. Now, the message, you could either tell it to the audience, or you could hint to it in a way that it's clear what you're going to be talking about. Don't be the speaker who's been speaking for like 2-3 minutes and the audience still have no idea where you're going with this. Yes, you can do it within the hook and the frame, but then after that, it should be clear where is the speech going. So the message, you could either say it, what the message is, or you could hint around it in a way that it's clear to the audience what this talk is going to be about. And then you dive into the body of the speech. Now, I would recommend that you use a personal story. Don't tell me a story of some famous, a historical figure or someone famous, because these stories I can always read about them in a book. You also run the risk of having a lot of people in the audience who already know what the story is. So now you just gave up the whole speech. Use a personal story. And the story should have a build-up. It should build up to what's called the climax of the story. And this should come maybe about the fourth minutes within your speech. Now, the climax is what I like to call the ah moment. Now, it could be an ah, or it could be ah, or it could be oh, which means it could be hitting rock bottom, or it could be a beautiful moment, or it could be a twist that nobody saw coming in the speech. Now, the story built up to this ah moment. What's going to happen after this ah moment? Imagine, my fellow audience members, if I was telling a story and I said, and I still remember that day, I was standing in my living room, and in my hand, I had a letter from the university. I have been expelled. 4 years of studying, just gone down the toilet. Now, 5 years later, thankfully, I have a beautiful job. I have my own business. I became the world champion of public speaking. Now, you might wonder, wait. How did this happen? Just a minute ago, you were just being expelled from school. How did you become the person that you are now? And that's the important thing after the rock bottom, Mohammed, which is show me the struggle. Let me ask you this question. By a show of hands, how many of you drive a BMW? Nobody. All right. How many of you have $1 million in your bank account? Nobody. How many of you have failed a class in college? How many of you have been in love and lost, or have been in a really good relationship and that relationship is gone? Now, you see, a lot of hands get raised on failures, and only few hands get raised on successes. My point is this: throughout your speech, most of the speech should be focused on your failures, not on the successes. A lot of speakers, the motivational speakers, they tend to tell you who they are and what they have achieved and look what I've done. When you brag about the things that you have already achieved, you're creating a barrier between you and the audience, because most of the people in front of you have failed, but only few have achieved what you have achieved. I don't want to hear about what you've done. I want to hear about the failures. Because when you tell me that you failed in college, that you had a relationship that did not work out, that you lost a lot of money, when you tell me all this stuff, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, I did that too. So if this person could actually achieve something, then maybe I can achieve as well. I feel like you and me are the same. So after the ah moment, focus a lot more on the struggles. Show me the failures that you've been through. Show me the so many times that you fell on your face and you got up again and then you fell again. And most of your speech should be on the failures, not on the successes. And that brings us to the next step, which is what I like to call the victory line. And when I say line, I mean line. Yes, you had rock bottom, you struggled a lot, and now you made it. Just mention it in one line. Don't brag about who you are, what you have achieved. People don't like to hear that, even if it's true. So this is the body of your speech. Now we come into the conclusion. My fellow audience, do you remember when you were in school and it's a math class, and at the end of the class, in order for the teacher to make sure that you understood what the teacher has explained, the teacher gives you homework, something that you can do when you go home. Why? Because when you do it at home, the information sticks in the mind a lot more. And the same thing happened with speaking. In the conclusion, give the audience something to do. It's called the call to action. You have to give them something to do, something that they can do outside of the hall, something that they can do when they leave this hall, when this speech is over. And make it something that they, as an individual, can do. If I was talking, for example, about world hunger, and at the end of the speech, I said, my fellow audience, I think every country around the world we should all unite as countries and put an end to this famine that's been taken over in Africa and Asia and everywhere. Now, if I ended like this, you are thinking as an audience member, all right, you're asking the countries to do something. What can I do as an individual? In my speech, The Power of Words, in the conclusion, I said, you have the power to change the world. You and you and you. And you're thinking, oh my God, really, me? Yes, you all can, by just few words that you can say. So give the audience something to do, something in their hand that they can do after they leave this hall. And finally, the last statement. When I get asked to give a motivational speech or a motivational talk, it takes me maybe 2 to 3 days to write the whole speech. I take 2 more days just to write the last sentence. You have to have a very strong last sentence because that's what's gonna stick in people's minds. Don't be the speaker who ends with, and that's it, thank you. That's not an end. End with a very powerful statement that will stick in people's minds. So this is basically an easy structure for you can follow. Begin with a hook, frame, tell me what the message is, use a personal story, have a build up to a climax, show me the struggle, call to action, and then the last statement. Is it the winning recipe? Of course not. You can still win without it. But it's an easier structure that you can actually follow. Now, what makes a speaker stands out among others? I'm going to give you some very easy tips that I really hope that you can keep in mind. First, and I cannot illustrate this enough, don't be the hero of your own story. I see this a lot in Toastmasters. A lot of people want to share their own story. And when they're sharing their own story, they come out as, as the hero who's going to save the day, or look at me, I was way down here and now I'm way up here. When you are telling the story and you're the hero of the story, even if the story is true, you still come out as someone who's kind of bragging about it. So how can you tell a personal story, but not be the hero of the story? Be an observer of the story. For example, tell me a story about your mother, a dear friend of yours, someone that has been struggling and you are there with them, but you're just observing that character. So you're not the hero yourself, the hero is someone else. Secondly, be authentic. There's a rule that I always have when it comes to speaking, which is this. When you are on stage speaking, and then you step down and I come and talk to, and I actually talk to you, I should be talking to the same person. A lot of speakers, they put on a show, which is okay. You can actually use your body movement or whatever on stage, but it should be who you are. If you are being someone else on stage and then you step down and I'm talking to you and I notice you're somebody who's different, then I lose faith in the whole message because what I just saw was fake. Tip number 3, use a message that is a universal message, which means the story that you tell should make sense, whether you tell it in the Philippines, in the US, in Africa, in India, wherever you are. You see, the issue is sometimes we draw stories from our own communities and our own, our own societies. But you take that story and you give it someone else in the world, that audience might not even click with it because they don't understand the background behind it. So use a message and a story that's universal, that could be said everywhere. 4th, and most importantly, your audience come first. Then you as a speaker come second. You know, when we take the stage, we often just think about how do we look? Do we look okay? Do we sound okay? And sometimes we might have an agenda behind this speaking. Maybe we just want to win a trophy or win a title or get more likes on Facebook or like whatever. But we rarely think about our audience. Every time you take the stage, I want you to take the stage with the whole intention that I really hope someone out there, someone who's listening, can learn something from me, from the story that I'm actually about to say. And maybe it will change their lives. You know, I've been blessed to be invited to speak in a lot of districts all over the world. And whenever I go to a Toastmasters district, I always make sure that I attend the international speech contest. And in every international speech contest, the same thing happens every single year. And I'm sure you've seen it in your own district conference as well, which is this. There comes a speaker who does everything per the book. Structure, check. Body language, check. Voice, check. Message, check. He checks out all the boxes. But you're watching that speaker thinking, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but something is missing. I don't know what it is. But then he steps down. Another speaker comes in with a broken English, broken grammar, broken enunciation. But you feel this speaker speaks from here. He speaks from the heart and he means every word he says. And in every contest that I've been to, the second guy always wins. You know, all the stuff that we learned in Toastmasters in terms of body movement and voice and all that stuff, you can all just take it away and throw it. If it's not coming from here, it doesn't matter. So pick a topic that you're really passionate about, a message that you really want the entire world to hear. You know, I get asked a lot of times from people, speakers, Mr. Qahtani, I'm about to speak. Is there any last advice that you'd like to give me before I take the stage? And I always give them this advice, and I always say, imagine and believe that after you speak and you step down, that you're going to die. And this is the last thing that you'll ever say. And ask yourself, is it worth saying? And if it is, how would you say it? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening.
Amazing.
Apparently, they're 12 hours ahead in China. It's morning, this meeting that I'm listening to. It started at 10 a.m. there, which was 10 p.m. our time on Friday. It's 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Is there any questions? If you have, raise your hand, and Andre hopefully can help.
Let's
Actually,
have,
some people already raising their hands, so the admin can look into the list.
let's have Toastmaster Rainier to lead and facilitate.
Hi, yeah. Good morning, everyone. So I will be leading the question and answer this morning. So just to facilitate, and it's for us to easily view who wants to ask questions, you can just type your name and your club on the chat box so that I could just call you. While I wait for people to start typing in their names, I just have one question for
Yes.
you, Mohammed. What are the common pitfalls that you've experienced as a speaker, as a professional speaker, that you can share with us so that we could actually learn from these? What are the pitfalls that we should be avoiding?
You know, when I started my Toastmaster, my Toastmaster journey, I was really eager to kind of be done with the speeches. So I used to give the speeches even unprepared. Like I have a project to do in my CC manual or my advanced bronze, or so I know what the project is. I kind of have an idea in my mind, and I think to myself, I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna, improvise it. And what I noticed is this: when you go on stage and you're not prepared, no matter how good you are, your audience can always tell that this person is not prepared. And when you speak to me and you're not prepared, as an audience member, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking this person did not prepare something from me, then he does not deserve my time to listen to him or her. So now I take it very seriously to always prepare everything that I say. I don't like memorize, but I have to write my speech. Write it down. Don't memorize it, but write it down. Read it at least 5 to 10 times. Then you can throw it away and speak. But you have to write the whole speech down first.
Great. Thank you very much. That's a very good reminder for us that preparedness and being prepared as a speaker always comes first.
Yes.
Nothing beats preparation. All right, so let me just call on some of the people who raised questions. Can I call on Nino of Mayon Toastmasters Club? Nino, are you there? Can you just speak up?
I'm here. It's Nino.
Yes, please, Nino.
Good
Sorry.
afternoon, DTM from I'm from the Philippines. Yeah, can you elaborate a little more on when you said not being the hero?
Well,
of the story.
Yes, you can. Okay, so as I said earlier, you can use a personal story, but don't make the story just to be revolving around you. Look at me. I've been, I failed in my life, but now I'm a successful person. Even if that's true, the audience don't always appreciate it. You always come across as someone who's kind of just bragging about who you are. Now, you can tell the story, your own personal story, but the hero, it should be someone else. So maybe you are the person who has been failing in your life, who didn't, who actually did things the wrong way, but then someone comes in, maybe a friend, maybe your mom, maybe your dad, maybe a family member, who gave you a golden advice, and that advice actually made you who you are. So you're not the hero yourself. The hero is someone else who's influencing your life. I hope that makes it clear.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. I'm just going to randomly select people because I easily have like a 10 to 20 number of people who wants to ask questions. So I'm just going to randomly select people. How about if we hear from Jessie Chin of Malaysia? Jessie from Kuching Elite Toastmasters Club.
Good morning, Mohammed Qahtani. I'm Jessie from Kuching, Malaysia. I have a question I would like to ask you. You just now were mentioning about when we share the story, we must talk about instead of sharing, we are the hero of the story. We focus on sharing on our failure. So my question is, can we share we as a victim rather than we as a hero? Like most of the time, maybe not the failure that we have been experiencing, but we became the victim. We have been abused, we have been bullied, or we have been mistreated. Can we share it? And if yes, then how should we carry it on to make a conclusion to impact the audience? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you want to be the victim of the story, you can, but then I ask you this. So I ask you this a question. So at the beginning of the speech, you're going to be the victim. What's going to happen at the end? Is it that you're going to emerge victorious and, you know, things are okay now? Which means at the end, you still became the hero of the story after all. So you were the victim at the beginning, but then now look at me. After I've been a victim, now I'm being, you know, the great, that person which I am. So you still come out as, you know, as the hero of your own story. Now, here's one thing that you should keep in mind. Your stories, even though they're personal stories, nobody knows your stories but you. So if you're afraid that even if you tell your stories and you know, it's a very important story to you, but you don't want to be the hero of the story, make the story about someone else. So it is your own story. It happened to you, but when you are telling it, you're telling it as if it happened to someone else and you're just observing it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you as a speaker. It's about, okay, this is a message that I want the audience to just listen to, regardless whether it happened to me or happened to someone else, but the message itself is what matters. So maybe you can take the story that happens to you and tell it in a way that it could have happened to someone else and you are just observing the story.
Okay, so my questions after this is, if let's say I'm sharing a victim, I mean as a victim, is it my conclusion must be a victorious conclusion, or can I share it like more on a lesson rather than sharing my victorious moment?
Okay, when you are, okay, here's the thing a lot of people actually miss. They have a great story, like, okay, so like maybe it's a story that happens to you and you want to share the story. But at the end of the day, me as an audience member, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, why should I listen to your story? So yes, you're the victim. At the end, why are you telling me the story of you being the victim? Unless there is a lesson from it that I learned at the end of the story. So yes, you can. Okay, so why are you telling me the story? I want you to keep asking yourself this question. Are you telling me the story because you think it's interesting? Because I think my life is interesting and I want the world to know about it? No. You're telling me the story because look at me, I'm a victim. I really hope this doesn't happen to you. And in order for it not to happen to you, please don't do 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Jesse. Let's now listen from Miggy of Makati Toastmasters Club.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, good morning, everyone, and good morning, Mohammed. I'm Miggy from Makati Toastmasters. I have 2 questions. They would revolve around speech writing and rehearsing. For speech writing, I was wondering how you could write speeches a lot faster, especially if you don't have enough time, because there are times when you would want to complete so many projects that you have very little time left. And for rehearsing your speech, what's your secret on how you could easily remember or internalize your material?
All right. See, we always claim that we don't have the time. But if you gather around that little time that you have, which you spend every day, either watching TV or playing on your phone or whatever, if you gather around this time, you will end up with like at least an hour, 2 hours a day. I use this time to write to actually just write my speeches. Now, what I have is I have a small like notebook that I carry with me all the time. And everywhere I go, when I observe something that triggers my mind to write something about, I write in that small like notebook the idea. And then when I go home, I just open that notebook and I see the idea and I start writing. Now, my first draft, which I would recommend all of you to actually do not write on a computer. Do not type your speech on a computer. Write it with your hand on a piece of paper. Why? Because when you're writing it with your hand, the idea sticks in your mind a lot more because you're writing it with your hand. So write it, and then once you have the speech ready, read it out loud in front of a mirror 10 times. And then you can throw it away. Don't memorize your speech. This is a really big mistake a lot of people do. When they memorize the speech word per word, that's a terrible mistake, because if you miss one word, you're gonna miss your entire speech. But read the speech out loud in front of a mirror 10 times. And then you can throw it away. The flow is now on your mind. When you're on stage, you're not gonna say the exact same words that you wrote, but the flow is there. You're not gonna be out of place. You're not gonna miss one point. You know that this is my introduction. This is the first point I'm gonna jump into, second point and third point, and so on. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I was informed that we have 10 minutes left. We'll try to squeeze in as many as possible. How about we hear somebody from District 97, Thailand, Shaharyar from Hat Yai Songkla Toastmasters Club. Are you there, Shaharyar? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, I hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Good morning and assalamu alaikum, Mohammed Qahtani. Yeah, and I would like to know, actually, I want to be my coach. So how can I reach to you? So that's
Well, I mean, I can just type in my email in the chat, but just to give you heads up, I always help my fellow Toastmasters as much as I can, but because of the amount of requests which I get, I might actually be kind of late in responding to you, but I will respond to you, I promise. Thank you.
Okay, I will send you a message on your Facebook, because
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Hannah Valensoy of Human Energy Toastmasters Club.
Hi, yes.
Hannah.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My question is, can you still be your authentic self and still become a world champion, and how?
Well, that's actually a really big challenge, because fame can take you. It can take you by storm, especially when it comes to Toastmasters, because up until I won, I really didn't think I'm gonna win, and now once they announced that I am the champion, my life kind of flipped overnight. I turned from a nobody to a person that the whole world knows. But I'm glad to have friends that which I cherish very deeply, who always remind me to always know who I am and always know my ground and always try to be as humble as possible. Because once you let the fame get into your mind, you start expecting things that you shouldn't be expecting, like a special treatment or whatever. Why? Just because you have a title up to your name? Your title, okay, so you don't make the title, you don't let the title make you. You are the one who makes the title, which means there's a lot of people who actually won the championship and now nobody even knows who they are. And the same thing will happen to me too. I was in New Zealand about 2 years ago, and I was speaking here for a district conference. And I asked him about the 1999 world champion of public speaking, because he's from New Zealand. And they told me that he lives across the street from where the hall is. So I asked, wait a minute, you have a world champion who lives across the street and you flew me from half the world away? Why? And they said, well, because he's old news. And that's when it clicks with me that I too will become old news one day. One day, nobody's gonna even know who Mohammed Qahtani is. There is a great, it's a great quote, which I always believe in, what goes, people will forget who you are. People will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's the legacy that you want to keep. You want people to feel inspired and humbled, and they're not going to remember what you said, but they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Thank you, Mohammed, for inspiring us. Have a good day.
Great, thank you. So I just received a private message from Annalyn Uliza. I'm just gonna ask her this question on her behalf. Any tips for building confidence, especially to those people who think they had a lot of failure or they've failed a lot?
Well, as a speaker, the best way to build your confidence is to give yourself a pep talk before you go on stage. You know, why are we afraid when we are on stage? The fear comes because we think that we're gonna make a mistake, we're gonna forget our talk, the audience are gonna laugh at me, I'm gonna be boring. And we always tell ourselves these things, so when we go on stage, we shake and we stutter and we lose it. Before you take the stage, I want you to do this. Stand outside the stage and just talk to yourself. You know what? Today, I'm gonna blow them away. Today is gonna be my best performance ever. Nobody can touch me. I am the best of the best. Fake it until you make it. Last year, I was having an event in the United States, and then 2 days later, I'm speaking in Australia. So I spoke in the US, and then I flew to Australia. I haven't slept. I landed and I go straight into the stage. I'm so tired. But then I stand after the audience and you know what? You're tired, but that's fine. They have been waiting to listen to you. You're gonna blow their mind away. And I kept talking to myself in that way. And every time I try that, it always happens. So always convince yourself that you're gonna do the best, and you will always do the best.
All right, great. I think we have a time for a couple more. How about Craig from Nielsen? Craig, are you there?
Yes, hey. Hi, Mohammed. Thank you so much for your talk today. It was very inspiring. I do have just one specific question for contests because I have been joining for a few years now. My question specifically for the international piece is, you know, when you write a piece and it feels like it's you, it's, as you said, be authentic, come from the heart. And then, of course, you practice because it is a competition and you get all of these inputs. And I guess my question is, how do you balance between, you know, wanting to win and getting all of these inputs while still staying true to your speech? Because sometimes when you get onto that stage, the piece that you share is so far away from the piece that you originally wrote that you were proud of. So I think personally for you, how did you manage that?
I totally agree with you. See, when you are in the competition, everybody will give you feedback and everybody will give you a piece of advice. Now, keep in mind, when people give you feedback, they are just trying they are trying to show you how they would give the speech if they were in your shoes, but they're not you. Which means when people give you any advices or any feedbacks, always and only take the ones that make sense to you. I don't care who it's coming from. If you gave me your speech and you asked me for a feedback and I gave you a piece of feedback that you don't agree with, even if it's come from a world champion, say, you know what, Mr. Qahtani has no idea what he's talking about. I know actually better. So everybody who will give you a feedback, they will give you the feedback based on what they would do if it was their speech, but it's not. Do not change your speech in a way that becomes not what you want to say. This is very important. If it's something that you do not want to say, then you already lost. yes, you could, I mean, like you can just listen to people, you can take advice from people, but don't cross that line of altering your speech too much that it doesn't feel like you anymore.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed. One last question from Andre. Andre, the brains behind all of this, you have the pleasure of asking the final question.
So good morning, Mohammed. How are you?
Good morning.
First of all, thank you very much for accepting my invitation, and because of you, we have lots of attendees here, and we really learned a lot from your talk and Q and A. So so as you notice, I have a stutter because when you won the world championship way back in 2015, I was still not a Toastmaster back then, and then after if I watch a video of you, you mentioned that you are also a person who stutters. That made me actually join Toastmasters because I was really amazed that you became a world champion regardless that you stutter or not. So if any tips on how I can manage my stuttering. And for my second question, I regularly compete in the international speech category. So whenever I practice, I really practice a lot, like 100 times before the competition. So what this does is it lessens my stuttering, but at the same time it makes my speech like a robotic or somewhat a performance. The more I practice my speech, my stutter lessens, but it becomes more of a performance. So first is, how do you manage your stuttering, and second, how do you practice so that it's not like a performance? Yes.
Well, at first, I'd like to thank you, Andre, for, I mean, first for hosting me, and secondly, I mean, like, I love to talk to people who actually have the same issue which I have. I mean, I still stutter even until now. You might have noticed it while I'm speaking, just here and there, but it's still there. What I noticed with stuttering, and I would recommend this actually for you as well, is this. See, us who stutter, we tend to speak too fast because we want to just get rid of the words. And the problem is, the faster we speak, the more we actually, I mean, like, stutter. So, like, one of the things that I do is I force myself to speak in a slower tone. And I want you to also practice that as well. Even though sometimes you might feel like you really want to speak faster because you want to get the words out. No, slow down. When you speak, be in the habit of speaking slower than your regular tone. And secondly, just keep doing what you're doing in terms of speaking in like in front of people. Us who stutter, we stutter because we have a shattered self-confidence ever since we were children. So when you speak in front of people, I mean, like, that's actually the reason why I joined a Toastmaster club, is because the more I speak in front of people, the less I stammer. Like, I didn't want to win anything. I mean, like, when I actually just first joined, I only joined Toastmaster just to cure the stuttering which I have. So just keep speaking as much as you can. Read as much as you can, because when you read and you have a lot of like vocabularies, words will flow in your mind a lot faster. Now, in terms of the competition, I'm going to give you a tip on how to do the rehearsals in a way that will make the speech flow rather than being robotic. And this not just for you, this is for like everybody. As I said, write your speech first. And I would recommend that you write it with hands. Stand in front of a mirror, close the door, and read it out loud in front of a mirror while you're watching yourself, because you get to see what the audience see. If you have a creepy smile, you can fix it. So now speak in front of a mirror for 10 times. And then do this. And I recommend this for everybody as well. Invite a friend. And I would recommend that you invite someone who's not a Toastmasters, because, you know, us Toastmasters, we evaluate, motivate. No, you want actually someone who's not actually a Toastmaster. Invite a Toastmaster for coffee and sit across the table from that person and start to give the speech as if it was a talk. And at the end, ask that person these 3 questions. First, is the speech clear? Second, is it entertaining? And third, did it motivate you to do something with your life? Because I think these are the 3 key elements in any speech that you give. It has to be clear, which means I'm using a language that most people understand. I'm not using some hard words that people would not even get. And second, is it interesting? Am I using an interesting story? Am I using my sense of humor? And finally, did the speech motivate you to do something with your life? And if the answer is no, ask the person which part was not clear, which part was boring, and then go back and do them like we're writing again. And then you can actually just take it and practice it into your Toastmaster Club. Every time you give the speech, try not to give the same words. Use a different word while the structure is still the same, but always mix up some words onto the fly. As a stutterer, if you feel like a stuttering is gonna come up, stop talking. Don't force it. And in Toastmaster, we learned the great power of using pauses. So this could be one of the pauses that you use. If you feel it's like it's gonna happen, stop talking, take a deep breath, and start again. And as I said, I'm really proud of you. I mean, like people like us who just come a long way. I mean, like recently I was speaking in an event. I know that I'm taking a lot of time, but I'm just gonna share this kind of story. I was speaking in an event last year, and it was in I think it's in London. So I flew there and I still haven't slept well. And usually when I'm tired, I stutter even more. I don't know if you have the same issue or not, but if I'm tired, I kind of stammer more. So I took the stage and I was speaking, and at the beginning of my speech, I stuttered, and there were 3 people who were seated on the front seat. And they started laughing. And I know how that feels, Andre, because I've been there before. And a lot of people have laughed at me before. But I ignored it and I kept on with my speech. And then at the end, I was trying to kind of give a motivational, that, you have to fall more than once. So at the end of my speech, I said, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, people are going to make fun of you. People are going to call you name. People are going to laugh at you. In fact, when I began speaking here today, I stuttered and these 3 people laughed at me. Well, guess what? I'm the world champion of public speaking. What have you done? And everybody in the hall started clapping. I don't like to kind of brag, but at that moment, I kind of felt like it's something that needs to be said. Because Andre, I'm sorry to tell you this, there will be people who still laugh at you. Even from now, there will be people who still laugh at you. But I want you to just remember this. While you are on stage and somebody else who is not, you're doing something that they are terrified to do. So in a way, you're already much better than them. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you very much, Andre. Thank you very much, Mohammed. So I think that claps our question and answer portion. This is the best way to spend our Saturday morning. And I turn back the control to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Jay. Take it away.
Thank you very much, President Rainier, for that Q&A. Mohammed, you are amazing. Andre, keep on sharing. Both of you share the same problems and obstacles, but you conquered it with grace and with such wisdom through experience and downfall. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom to us today. Whether you stutter or not, we've learned to embrace the power of pausing. And it takes that one person to believe in you for us to go on. So pass it on. Be that inspiration to someone else. Mohammed, we would like to thank you for your time today, for sharing this to all of us, not only in the Philippines, but to other Toastmasters from all over the world. And with that, Mohammed, we would like to award you with an e-certificate, and hopefully we get to give you something when we see you in person.
I hope that too.
This is such an inspiring event. So Pam, please share to us our certificate of appreciation to Mohammed. And as much as he wants to answer all your questions for today, we will just gather it and hopefully Andre will get in touch with Mohammed so that we could filter the questions and get back to you. So please do write your names and clubs. And don't forget to like our Facebook pages as well. So Mohammed, this is for you. Thank you for being part of our year-end inspirational talk and sharing your insights on the winning speech formula given on this 27th day of June in the year 2000. In behalf of Andre Magno, President of Green Hills Prime Toastmasters Club, and all the organizing clubs for today, we would like to thank the following: Elite Toastmasters Club, Emerald Toastmasters Club, Grand Central, Green Hills Prime, IAME, Metro Manila, Nielsen, Ortigas Center, and Servio for organizing this meeting for today. Everyone, may I please request you to turn on your microphones and your cameras as well, because we will be having a photo op right after this. So turn on your mics and let us give our champion, distinguished Toastmaster Mohammed Qahtani, a big and astounding round of applause for being brave.
Thank you so much. Incredible.
Yes, Mohammed. We had to turn on your camera because I'm not wiping my tears. Go ahead, all the way. Come on, guys. Do better.
Yeah. This is what
Toastmasters
is all about.
achieve. Agree. Come on. Keep it coming.
Thank
You guys deserve nothing but the best.
I'm blushing, by the way.
Thank you so much.
And you can watch this again via our Facebook Live. You can replay this video. Thank you for being a part of this event. And before we end it, officers, please take our snapshots. Get ready with your smile. Wipe your tears, please. Before we go to that, Mohammed, is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, like while everybody's getting prepared for the photo, I want to remind you all that, ladies and gentlemen, everybody here has a superpower, has a power to change this whole world. And it only takes few words. You know, every time you look at something that you don't like, whether it's in the community you're in, whether it's in politics, no matter what it is there because the wrong person was given a chance to speak. So if you are the right person, please take that chance and say something.
Take that chance, everyone. Thank you very much, Mohammed. It is indeed a fruitful morning or evening in some parts of the world. Thank you all for being here. So please do turn on your cameras now and let's have that groupie. Officers, please take charge. Keep those messages coming. We will screenshot that. We love to hear all your messages and read back later on to savor. So Rainier, will you be taking charge of the picture taking?
Yes, I am.
us,
I'm doing a screenshot.
All right, signal us to
So,
smile.
right, I need like 20 seconds of your time
Okay. There
smiling
is
because I am
currently 100 plus of
screenshot.
us. Okay, so maybe request some of you to please turn off your microphones. We are all learning to adjust to this Zoom world.
Right, keep on smiling. You'll never
Keep
know
on.
when I'm grabbing the screen. So keep on smiling.
So our max.
Yes, Andre, please go ahead. May I please request the rest to please turn off their mics, Andre? Hold that.
We had a max of 144 in attendance from more than 20 countries. Wow! So this is a historical event. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm sure you too are also proud of it. So I'll be posting the link, so the recorded video of this, so you can replay it at home. So please like our Facebook pages. So Elite, Emerald, Guinness Prime. So all 9 clubs, please like and follow them. But of course, please follow my club, Guinness Prime. So it's a special mention, Guinness Prime Toastmasters. So yes, so back to you, our MC.
TM Petra, hello. So I unmuted the whole time? Was I on
Yes,
mute?
you were.
All right,
You were on mute.
sorry. I think that looked funny. So thank you, Andre, once again for sharing. Keep on sharing and speaking. Everyone needs to practice. Embrace that pause. And as Mohammed shared with us, write your thoughts down. No story can be too small to share to the world. Special shout out to my friend DTM Petra. Good morning to you. And with that, we have taken all our pictures, President Rainier, right?
Yes, so you can now stop smiling.
You can't stop smiling after what Mohammed just shared with us. And I would like to call back President Anthony Aranda to lead us for the joint closing.
Thank you very much, President J. Hornales and this distinguished Toastmaster Mohammed Qahtani. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and guests, by the authority given to me by Toastmasters International, I, Anthony Foronda, for Elite Toastmasters Club.
Rainier Dunga of Emerald Toastmasters Club.
J. Hornales, Grand Central Toastmasters Club.
Andre Magno from Green Hills Prime Toastmasters.
RC Villa Abril from Metro Manila Toastmasters Club.
Go on, keep it coming, guys.
Craig Manalo from Nielsen Philippines Toastmasters Club.
Metro Manila. Nielsen.
Servio Eastwood.
Craig Manalo from Nielsen Philippines Toastmasters Club.
Servio.
Ferrer, Servio Eastwood Toastmasters Club.
Ortigas. And President Anthony, in behalf of all the 9 clubs.
And on behalf of the 9 clubs, we adjourn this most well-attended event.
All right, so unmute yourselves. Go on.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Thank you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mohammed.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Happy love, 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 love.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Gigi and
Mohammed.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Congratulations.
you. We
That was
appreciate
so
it. Thank you. Thank you,
excellent.
Mohammed.
we love you from the Philippines.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Mabuhay.
The
Blessed to be
all organizers.
Muhammad in the Philippines. We all look forward to meeting you, Muhammad.
See you soon, dear Toastmaster fans.
I'm gonna do this screenshot with Mohammed. This won't happen every day.
Yeah.
You invite them on the next part.
I love
Together
it.
in part 2.
Please, please, please.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
everyone.
Petra.
Thank you, everyone.
And to those,
Andre, I'm your fan, Andre.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you, Andre.
Alright.
Do write down your club so we can acknowledge you in our Facebook post. Thank you so much, everyone.
And hopefully, guys, after this pandemic is over, I can come and just visit you in the Philippines. I would love to do that.
Good to
Awesome.
have you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Such a wonderful joint meeting. Bye, guys. Officers,